Hi everyone, welcome back to the SWAPA Probie to Pro video series. Today we are talking about what happens if you are unable to begin or continue an assignment due to fatigue. First, let's define what it means to be fatigued. You are fatigued when in your own assessment you are too tired to safely complete the next flight. Or, according to the FAA, fatigue is a physiological state characterized by a reduced capacity to perform mental and physical tasks, potentially leading to errors, poor decision-making, and reduced situational awareness. Another way to think about it is this. When you sign fit for duty, you affirm that you are physiologically and mentally prepared and capable of performing assigned duties at the highest degree of safety. If you are fatigued, you are not fit for duty. You can be fatigued for many reasons, including insufficient sleep, extended wakefulness, circadian phase changes, workload issues, or cumulative sleep debt. Symptoms of fatigue may include irritability, difficulty concentrating, lack of focus, or micronapping, to name a few, but you likely know how fatigue commonly presents itself for you. If you are having that conversation in your head about whether you should call in fatigued, pause for a moment of self-evaluation. If your family was in the back of the airplane and you lost an engine on takeoff, would you be capable of handling that situation? We tend to be mission-oriented. We want to get our customers to their destination. We want the other pilot to make their commute. And that attitude, while usually beneficial, can sometimes lead us into flying when we know we shouldn't. Reassignments can often drive fatigue calls as well. But scheduling doesn't know your personal situation. They only look at regulatory and contractual legalities. Only you can determine if you are fit to accept a reassignment. They don't know what time your alarm went off or how much sleep you actually got. When you recognize that you are or will be fatigued, call crew scheduling. Simply tell them that you need to report fatigued or state, "I am making a fatigue call." You don't have to explain why. It's not a conversation, and you don't have to defend your decision. You are simply informing crew scheduling that they need to implement their procedures for a fatigued pilot. After making a fatigue call, crew scheduling will build a recovery plan with you. This is a mutually agreeable plan designed to give you the rest you need and then to rejoin the pairing somewhere down the line if possible. Typical recovery plans might put you into rest immediately via a company-provided hotel and then catch you up with the trip later. Or the plan might involve an immediate deadhead followed by a rest period. The key phrase here, though, is mutually agreeable. This is your opportunity to obtain adequate rest, so tell them what you need. You and scheduling must agree to a recovery plan during that initial call, but even after you agree to a plan and hang up the phone, you can call back later and revise the plan. If it's not possible to rejoin your pairing, scheduling will deadhead you back to base. Alternatively, you can waive those deadheads with pay and instead receive must-ride transportation to your commuter city. You can also report fatigue for a future leg, not just the immediate one. We call that a proactive or downline fatigue call. As soon as you recognize that you will be fatigued for future flying, notify crew scheduling. You do not have to wait until you complete the next leg if you are certain that the following one will not work out. When making a downline or proactive fatigue call, expect to be forwarded to the NOC chief pilot. The NOC chief will ask you a series of questions to determine if you are fit to fly the current leg or if you should be pulled immediately. The reason here is that we often convince ourselves we are okay to fly to a domicile where there are reserves to avoid delaying passengers or canceling a flight, for example. The NOC chief is simply trying to assess the level of risk by asking about your past sleep history, your projected time of wakefulness, and any additive conditions. Okay, those are the basics. Let's look at several sections of the contract that talk about fatigue. CBA Section 2 November states that when a pilot is unable to complete some portion of a pairing due to fatigue, the original pay will be guaranteed, including pay multiples. As with pay provisions throughout the contract, you are paid for the greater of what was originally scheduled or what was actually flown. However, you are not pay protected for revisions to an assignment that are not flown due to a fatigue call. The contract also says that your recovery plan is the new original pairing for the purposes of determining LCO and other overrides. You will not be considered J-aid if you call fatigued at an outstation on the last day of a pairing and are not able to get back to domicile on schedule. Section 12 Foxtrot discusses rest requirements while on a pairing. Paragraph 3 states that you should alert scheduling if there is an issue that is going to impede your rest, specifically the required 8-hour sleep opportunity. This is often due to issues with ground transportation, hotel rooms, or meals. If there's an issue, the company will reschedule the report time to provide you with an 8-hour sleep opportunity. If this is determined before you begin the 8-hour sleep opportunity, they will pull the legs as illegal and not as fatigue. If you have already begun the 8-hour sleep opportunity and later determine it was interrupted, then any pulls will be made under fatigue rules. The difference here is that the 8-hour sleep opportunity is an FAA requirement, and you are required to inform the company if you will not receive it. However, it is a judgment call if you have the opportunity, but it is interrupted or inadequate. Section 12 Juliet 1 Charlie talks about what happens when you report fatigued prior to checking in for a pairing or starting a wrap. That is automatically paid out of your sick bank. However, you can petition your chief pilot for review if you believe it is due to previous duty and outside your control. Your chief pilot can change your fatigue pay from your sick bank, or FTS code, to the company fatigue pay category, or FTC. A fatigue call prior to a pairing or reserve is the only time fatigue removals are paid from your sick bank. Okay, that's the contract language. Last thing to talk about is what to do after you report fatigue and have a recovery plan. Fill out a fatigue report within 7 days. It helps SWAPA and the company work together to mitigate future fatigue calls by changing hotels, work rules, etc. The SWAPA Safety Committee used fatigue reports to help the company build its rest requirements for red-eye flying, and past reports were instrumental to many of the fatigue, duty, and rest improvements we saw in Contract 2020. We are a data-driven organization, so please fill out the fatigue report to help provide us that data. You can submit the form as a fatigue concern if you did not report fatigue but later realized you should have, or if you notice anything that could potentially cause a fatigue issue. These reports help us all and provide valuable data going into the next contract negotiation. You can find the fatigue report by using the SWA reporting app on your EFB or via SWA Life under Flight Ops. Last note on fatigue. If you report fatigued for a training event, that is pulled without pay. The company does not recognize fatigue for training events, but you always have the option to report sick instead and get paid from your sick bank. This is not specifically stated in the contract, but it is current practice. The Fatigue Safety Advisory Group, or FSAG, would always appreciate a fatigue report for any training-related fatigue removal. For more information, check out the Safety Committee page on swapa.org, where you can find several in-depth videos on fatigue, along with several articles and podcasts. Additionally, you can always email fatigue@swapa.org for more specific questions or concerns. That's all for this episode of the Probie to Pro series. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.